Welcome. If you've ever sensed that desire isn't always pure, if you've felt the pull of a woman's attention only to find yourself caught in something far more complex, even unsettling than you're not imagining things, beneath the surface of attraction lies something ancient, strategic, and often darker than we admit. The Stoics saw it clearly. You were taught to believe that female desire is about romance, soft words, grand gestures, shared dreams under moonlight. You were told that if you're sweet enough, gentle enough, supportive enough, love will follow. But that's not how it works. Because what most men chase isn't desire, it's approval. And what most women respond to isn't charm, but energy, raw, rooted, real. The kind of energy that doesn't just speak, it commands. Desire for her is not sentimental, it's instinctual. It comes from the same place as survival, from a part of her deeper than logic, deeper than choice. It does not respond to your niceness. It does not awaken when you try to be what she wants. It awakens when you are what you are, unmoved, clear, directional, and calm in the face of her fire. Man is disturbed not by things, but by the view he takes of them. Epictetus. You think her desire is delicate. It isn't. It's primal. It has nothing to do with your words, your wealth, or your looks, and everything to do with whether she feels you. And here's the part that unsettles most men. She doesn't desire your emotions. She desires your depth, not your mood swings, not your complaints, but the stillness beneath your struggle, the weight of your presence, the edge of your restraint. Because in her core, what she wants is not a man who reacts to her, but one who anchors her. This is why most relationships fail, not because there's no love, but because there's no polarity. She becomes the masculine, he becomes the emotional, and over time, the current reverses. She loses respect, he chases harder, and the more he gives, the more she pulls away. Why? Because she doesn't want to carry both roles. She wants to feel safe enough to let go, to soften into her feminine, but that only happens when your masculine doesn't collapse the moment she resists you. This is what Stoicism revealed, not just in theory, but in practice. That female desire responds to containment, not chaos. That your strength isn't just in how much you feel, but in how little you let those feelings steer the ship. She doesn't want you cold. She wants you centered. She doesn't want you indifferent. She wants you unchangeable. She wants to know if everything around her burns, will you still be there? Not clinging, not running, not fixing, but present. And when you are, something ancient in her wakes up. Not the woman you see on the surface, but the woman underneath, the one who doesn't need you, but aches to surrender when she feels she can. Not to a man who dominates, but to one who doesn't need to. This is why the calmest man in the room is always the most desired, not because he speaks loudest, but because his silence says everything. She doesn't want a nice man, she wants a centered one. You've been lied to, told that if you're nice, attentive, agreeable, she will feel safe enough to love you. So you suppress your edge, you apologize for your opinions, you avoid confrontation, you become soft not out of peace but out of fear. And then one day, she pulls away, grows distant, says she needs space. You gave her everything and still, she's gone. Because she wasn't looking for everything, she was looking for you, and she couldn't find you beneath your performance. Niceness is not the same as goodness. It is not rooted in principle, it is rooted in appeasement. And a woman can feel when a man's kindness is a mask worn to avoid rejection. She can feel when his smile is laced with silent desperation, when his compliments are currency, when his softness is just a strategy to win her. What she craves is not your compliance, it's your center. A man who can stand in his truth, speak without apology, and hold the tension of disagreement without needing to resolve it instantly. A man who listens not to agree, but to understand and still knows where he stands. Waste no more time arguing what a good man should be. Be one. Marcus Aurelius. She doesn't test you to be cruel. She tests you to see you, to find your core, to feel your depth. When she pushes against your boundaries, it's not because she wants to break them, it's because she wants to feel how real they are. And the moment you fold, explain, apologize for your very nature, she feels it. The collapse, the weakness, the absence of center. And in that moment, her nervous system stops trusting you. Not because you aren't kind, but because you are unanchored. This is what most men never understand. That her attraction is not a reward for your niceness, it's a response to your integrity, your ability to stay rooted when things get uncomfortable, to remain calm when she gets chaotic, to hold space for her feelings without absorbing them, to be both gentle and immovable. That's not something you say, that's something you are. The Stoic man doesn't posture, he doesn't try to prove. He lives in quiet clarity. He is generous, but not at the cost of his values. He is kind, but not to avoid conflict. He can yield, but only when it doesn't betray his purpose. And that energy, not loud, not flashy, is undeniable. She feels it in the way you look at her, in the way you say no, in the way you don't seek her validation when she's upset, in the way you hold your own approval, like an ancient stone no one else can lift. Because when you become a man who lives from the inside out, no woman ever questions your worth again. Not because you convince her, but because she feels it in her body without needing a single word. Her darkness isn't evil, it's instinctual. You were taught to fear her anger, to shrink when she's cold, to fix her moods before they boil over. You were taught that her chaos is irrational and that your role is to stabilize it with logic. But what you were never taught is that her chaos isn't a flaw, it's feminine instinct in motion. That fire, that storm, that intensity that shakes the air when she's triggered, it's not there to harm you. It's there to reach you, to test whether the man you claim to be actually exists when pressure arrives. Her darkness is not evil. It's not cruelty. It's the part of her that is primal, the part that doesn't trust safety unless it's earned, the part that screams not because she wants you gone, but because she wants to see if you'll stay without collapsing. It is not death that a man should fear, but he should fear never beginning to live. Marcus Aurelius. Most men flinch. They interpret her emotional depth as danger. They panic, withdraw, or fight back. But what she's really doing is probing for substance, for edge, for your capacity. The deeper the woman, the darker her tests. Not because she's damaged, but because she cannot open fully unless she knows you can contain her fully. If her storm shatters you, she knows she can't trust you to hold her light either. The Stoic man doesn't fear the feminine's darkness. He recognizes it for what it is, an invitation, a confrontation not with her, but with himself, his patience, his breath, his silence. He doesn't correct her tone. He doesn't shame her tears. He doesn't try to escape or control. He just remains grounded, receptive, unmoved. This is the paradox. The more still you are, the more she rises. The more present you become, the more her intensity begins to soften. Not because you changed her, but because you gave her something stronger to surrender into than her own reactivity. You cannot love the light in a woman if you haven't made peace with her darkness. If her sadness, her fury, her edge still scares you, she will feel that. And the parts of her most craving intimacy will remain hidden because she knows you can't hold them. But if you meet her at that edge, not to conquer, not to survive, but to simply see her without flinching, she will reveal more than her anger. She will reveal her trust. And from that trust, desire is born. Not desire for your body, for your words, but for your stillness, for the way your soul doesn't run when hers is too much. Because when she gives you her chaos and you don't hand her back your fear, she knows you're not just strong, you're ready. Emotional risk is the gate to attraction. You want her to open, to surrender, to give you all of her. But what you often forget is this. Surrender doesn't happen in comfort, it happens in risk. And the one who must risk first is you. Attraction is not built on charm, it's built on courage, on the moment you decide to speak what you actually feel, without knowing how she'll respond, on the moment you say no when you're supposed to say yes, on the moment you hold her gaze not to impress, but because you're not afraid to be seen. Most men don't take emotional risks, they play safe. They wait for the right signals, they follow scripts. They never reveal themselves until it's guaranteed they'll be accepted. And that's why her body never truly trusts them. because you can't evoke real desire without real exposure. If you want to improve, be content to be thought foolish and stupid. Epictetus. The Stoic man isn't reckless with his heart, but he doesn't hide it either. He's not emotional in the sense of being unstable, but he's emotionally present, willing to step into tension, willing to say, "This is what I want," willing to let silence hang in the air and not fill it just to feel safe. Because here's the truth. The man who can express without needing an outcome is the one she feels most drawn to. Why? Because he doesn't speak to impress. He speaks to reveal. And the energy behind his words isn't validation-seeking, it's grounded in self-respect. She doesn't want a man who's always right. She wants a man who's real. And realness costs. It costs your pride. It costs your masks. It costs the comfort of control. But in return, it creates something no performance ever can. Polarity. The electric current that lives between two sovereign people who stop trying to manage the outcome and start telling the truth. Most men try to seduce without risk, but desire doesn't bloom in safety. It blooms in the unknown, in the moment when she's unsure of how you feel, but senses you're not playing games. In the way you can say, "I want you," without making her responsible for the response. In the way you show her your depth, not because she earned it, but because you've owned it. She doesn't need perfect lines, she needs unfiltered presence. The moment you reveal what's real, your intent, your desire, your edge, she will either come closer or she won't. But what matters more is that you remain centered either way, because the deepest attraction a woman can feel is not to your words, but to your willingness to be seen and stay strong in the seeing. You lead with risk, she follows with surrender. That's how real desire begins. She craves the edge of your restraint. She'll never say it aloud. She may not even admit it to herself. But inside there is a part of her that longs for your control, not over her, but over yourself. She doesn't want a man who takes, she wants a man who could take but doesn't. A man who holds desire, intensity, and appetite, and yet moves with patience, discipline, and unwavering calm. This is what ignites her, not the man who rushes to claim her, but the one who can stand inches from her lips and not kiss her until the moment is real. The one who can feel the pull of her body, the heat of her gaze, the rising tide of chemistry, and still choose timing over impulse. No man is free who is not master of himself. Epictetus. The truth is this: what you hold back awakens more than what you give. What you delay becomes more sacred than what you offer too easily. She wants to feel your fire, but only if she can also feel the container around it. Your ability to say no, to wait, to breathe, to direct the current instead of drowning in it. Because your restraint tells her everything about your power. It says, "I want you, but I do not need you." It says, "I feel you, but I am not ruled by that feeling." It says, "I am here, but I will not collapse into this moment just to feel something." Most men confuse availability with intimacy. They believe the more they give, the more she'll open. But giving everything too soon isn't generosity, it's desperation. And she can feel it, the hunger behind the gesture, the emptiness behind the attention. But when a man brings full presence and zero grasping, she begins to melt in ways she doesn't understand. Because now she's not being pursued. She's being claimed by stillness. She's being drawn into a field of energy where she doesn't have to perform because he's not performing either. He's aware, he's intentional, and he knows exactly what he wants without needing it to happen now. That's what makes her ache. The restraint, the discipline, the quiet dominance of a man who leads his own hunger rather than being led by it. She wants to know, can you feel everything and still hold the line? Can you be turned on and still stay composed? Can you desire her and still choose to build something deeper than the moment? Because the man who touches her soul is not the one who takes his pleasure fast. It's the one who lets the tension build, who makes her feel not consumed but seen, not rushed but revered. And in that space between touch and restraint, between wanting and waiting, she discovers something darker, deeper, and more dangerous than lust. She discovers devotion to a man who doesn't move until the moment calls for him fully. And when he finally moves, she's already his. She'll never say what she actually wants. You listen to her words. You take her cues. You follow the script that says, just ask her what she wants and give it to her. But something still doesn't click. She says she wants connection, but pulls away when you open up. She says she wants honesty, but bristles when you show your desire. She says she wants a good man, but her body leans toward someone else. You begin to feel confused, betrayed, misled. But the truth is brutal, and Stoicism doesn't shy away from it. She doesn't know what she wants until she feels it in front of her. You cannot logic your way into her longing. You cannot talk her into attraction. You must embody something she cannot name, and when you do, her body responds before her mind does. Don't explain your philosophy. Embody it. Epictetus. This is why women fall for men who never check all their boxes. It's not about boxes, it's about energy. The energy of a man who is present, who leads without asking, who touches the world with certainty, not needing permission. She'll never say she wants to feel dominated, but she'll melt when you guide her firmly. She'll never say she wants a man who tells her no, but she'll test every soft boundary to see if you'll finally set one. She'll never say she's turned off by weakness, but she'll slowly lose interest when you abandon your edge. That's because desire lives in the body, in the gut, in the limbic system, not in the polite world of language. And when you ask her what she wants, she'll often answer with what she thinks she should want. But her instinct wants something else entirely. It wants a man she can feel, a man who doesn't need her to confirm, approve, or validate, a man who doesn't outsource his confidence to her mood, a man who can walk into a room, feel her energy shift, and not flinch. This is what Stoicism reveals, that your purpose as a man is not to perform for her preference, but to lead from your presence. Don't ask her what she wants, show her who you are. And if that truth resonates with her nervous system, you won't need to speak it. You'll see it in her breath, her eyes, her surrender. Because when a woman truly feels you, her body says yes before her mind ever catches up. What she respects more than love. You've been chasing love, thinking that if she feels it deeply enough, clearly enough, everything will fall into place. That love will make her stay. That love will make her loyal. That love will make her choose you over every other man. But it won't. Because love without respect is nothing but dependency in disguise. You can give her everything, your attention, your devotion, your heart raw and uncovered. But if you lose her respect in the process, if she senses you've built your love on a foundation of emotional weakness, not personal sovereignty, she will pull away without knowing why. She may say, "You're too good for me," or "I just need space," or "Something's missing." But what she's really feeling is this: you forgot who you were to make her feel something she never asked for. How long are you going to wait before you demand the best for yourself, Epictetus? Respect is not born from being agreeable. It is born from being undeniable, from being the man who doesn't shift shape to be chosen, who doesn't apologize for his mission, who doesn't soften to be more digestible, who speaks the truth even when it costs him affection in the short term. Because a man who is willing to lose her rather than lose himself is the one she can't stop thinking about. Not because he chased her, but because he didn't. Most men make love the goal. They try to earn it by showing how safe they are, how supportive, how emotionally available. And these things matter, but only if they are delivered from a place of grounded masculine clarity, not from need, not from self-erasure. She wants to admire you, to feel pride in calling you hers, to look at you and know, this man doesn't belong to me, and that's why I want him so deeply. She wants to feel that if she disappeared, you wouldn't. That your life, your purpose, your soul's fire would keep burning with or without her. That's the paradox. When you no longer make her approval the source of your direction, you become the man she respects enough to follow. Respect lives in your posture when you're doubted, in your silence when you're misunderstood, in your breath when she storms, in your boundaries when she tests, and most of all, in your willingness to walk away from anything that costs your integrity. If you want her to respect you, show her. You won't break your word, not just to her, but to yourself. Show her you can be strong and soft, but never small. That your emotions don't run you. That your discipline protects you. That your presence doesn't beg, it leads. Love may open her heart, but respect is what keeps her there. The feminine wants to be claimed, not possessed. There's a look she gives you when you get it right. Not because you said the perfect thing, not because you chased her down, flattered her, or tried to win her, but because in one breathless moment she realizes. You see her. You choose her not to fill your emptiness, not to validate your ego, but because you recognize something in her that mirrors your depth, your stillness, your fire, and you're no longer afraid to act on it. She doesn't want to be conquered. She wants to be claimed in energy, in intent, in presence, not taken for your need, but received in your truth. You see, there is a subtle line between claiming and controlling, and most men never learn to walk it. They either possess, which smothers her, or they hesitate, which starves her. To claim is to stand fully in your choice, not waiting for approval, not hiding behind passivity. To move toward her with clarity, to say, I want you, but I do not need you to complete me. I am whole, and from that wholeness, I choose to share something real. Freedom is the only worthy goal in life. It is won by disregarding things that lie beyond our control. Epictetus, the Stoic man, doesn't grasp. He doesn't cling, he doesn't demand, but he doesn't avoid either. He walks toward what matters slowly, deliberately, without apology. And when the right woman feels this energy, the grounded sovereign choosing, she feels safe to open. Not because he trapped her, but because he held space for her. Because his energy said, come as you are, and I will remain as I am. She doesn't want to be yours in the way a trophy is owned. She wants to be yours in the way a river belongs to the mountain it flows through, chosen, not captured, held, not confined. And she tests this without words, in how long you take to text, in how you respond when she pulls back, in how clearly you move when desire rises. If you hesitate too long, she assumes you're unsure. If you rush too fast, she assumes you're insecure. But if you walk straight into the moment with calm, not aggressive, not passive, she feels it. This man isn't here to take. He's here to offer something deeper. Claiming then is not about possession. It's about reverence without attachment. It says, I see your chaos. I feel your light. I recognize the mystery inside you, and I choose to stand near it, not because I need control, but because I have it over myself. And that is the energy she's been starving for. Why Stoicism makes you magnetic to her desire. She doesn't understand it, not fully. She can't explain why, in a room full of louder, funnier, more charming men, her eyes keep returning to you. Why your silence says more than their flattery. Why the calm weight of your presence makes her breathe deeper, stand softer, feel seen. It's not because you tried to impress her, it's because you didn't. You weren't performing, you weren't grasping, you weren't consumed with trying to be chosen. You were simply there, centered, grounded, whole, and that whether she knows it or not is what her body has always been waiting for. He who is not a slave to his emotions is a king, adapted from Epictetus. Stoicism makes you magnetic because it does what no trick line or tactic ever could. It teaches you to belong to yourself, to govern your own mind, to slow your breath when hers speeds up, to step into the fire of tension without blinking, to love not with fear or force, but with absolute presence and zero need. That energy, it's rare, almost extinct, and because it's rare, it's unforgettable. Stoicism strips you of the illusion that you must do more to be worthy. It replaces effort with essence, strategy with stillness, desperation with direction. A woman doesn't crave your effort, she craves your essence. She wants to feel that when she speaks, you don't just hear her, you receive her. That when she tests you, you don't retaliate, you remain. That when she softens, you don't grab, you guide. And when she feels that her desire doesn't explode, it deepens, it spreads, like a flame that doesn't burn out because it's not fueled by performance, but by presence. You become the one man she can't stop thinking about, not because you gave her the most pleasure, the most compliments, or the most promises, but because you gave her the one thing no one else could, an unshakable space to surrender into. That is the paradox of feminine desire. It is wild, but it blooms only where stillness lives. And if you can be that stillness, not as an act but as a way of life, then you become the gravity that no surface attraction can compete with. She'll never say it out loud. She may not even understand it fully. But when she feels your calm in her storm, your depth beneath her beauty, your clarity in the chaos, she won't want to leave, because you won't just be the man she desires. You'll be the man she trusts to feel it all, without ever losing himself. And that kind of man is not found. He is forged. You came here to understand her, to read her silence, decode her desire, learn her signals and patterns and shadows. But as you listened closely, not just to her, but to yourself, a deeper truth began to emerge. This was never about becoming irresistible to women. This was about becoming unshakable as a man. Because when you master presence, you stop chasing. When you embody stillness, you stop explaining. When you live by principle, you stop performing. And from that silence, attraction awakens on its own. Not from gimmicks, not from game, but from gravity. Be tolerant with others and strict with yourself. Marcus Aurelius. This is the Stoic path. To want her but not need her. To love her but not lose yourself. To feel her fully without giving her the keys to your mind. When you live this way, you don't just become a man women desire. You become a man the world listens to differently. A man whose gaze carries weight. A man whose energy walks into a room before he says a word. So now, as this ends, you have a choice. You can return to the performance, the guessing, the chasing, the hoping, or you can return to yourself. And from there, everything changes. Because the women who once confused you will now reveal themselves. Not because they changed, but because you finally see through the lens of stillness what was always hidden beneath the noise. And that's where her true desire begins. Not in your effort, but in your essence. Now ask yourself, was she ever testing you? Or were you testing yourself to see if you were ready to lead, feel, and never flinch again? If you felt this, let it guide your next silence.